On this Byron podcast, I get to sit down with Doug Edrington. He's a member of my mastermind. Doug owns a Berkshire Hathaway home service franchise in Chattanooga, Tennessee. He's got a brokerage, a team. He's going to do over 1,000 transactions this year. They did just under 1,000 transactions last year. He's number one in his market year after year. He's got so much leadership information. Can't wait for you to enjoy this podcast. Leave me a comment on what you thought, by the way. And also, if you want to get on the level of somebody like a Doug Edrington, if you're trying to grow your business in this way, check out the link for Sisu below. Sisu, every team that gets on Sisu increases their business by over 100% annual volume, and single agents increase their volume on average by 28% once they get on Sisu. It's how you actually automate your business. If you're sick of a million different logins and you don't know where your business should transact online, you've got to check out Sisu. It's going to help you streamline everything you're doing. Check out the link and get on Sisu today. Let me know what you think about this pod with Doug. All right, sitting here with the number one team in Chattanooga, Tennessee. Got to be number one.
Yeah, for sure.
Even if you're not,
Thanks for having us.
You're the best team.
In Tennessee? I can't say in Tennessee.
No, Chattanooga.
In Chattanooga, yeah.
Chattanooga by far.
I'd say we maybe number two in Tennessee. I don't know.
Like
There's a
that.
big dog in Nashville.
Yeah. Well, Nashville's bigger market too.
Much bigger, yeah.
So Doug Edrington, welcome back to the podcast. We did a podcast a couple years ago.
Yeah, it's been too long.
Maybe before the
you got a lot more gadgets now.
There's a lot more going on. Bobby's stepped it up here. Podcast production. I mean, if we have a fire in this hotel, it's going to be because of all these wires right here for sure. So Doug, really admire what you've built over the years. Not only the Edrington sales team, but you also have the Berkshire Hathaway brokerage in Chattanooga. One of the most beautiful offices you'll ever see in the real estate space. Fun, interactive, ahead of its time. When did you open that up? We went out there
4 years ago last month. We're right at 4 years.
The way you designed it was way ahead of its time because you had all this like shared working space, private working space, place to have fun, rooftop bar. Now you took over the building next door, right? So
you hadn't seen that. You haven't seen that yet. Yeah,
no.
we got a full event. We have
there.
a full event space now, so it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, so you can do bigger events. Obviously, you bought that during COVID, but how big of a risky move is that?
No, we bought it.
I thought you bought it during COVID.
No, we bought it pre-COVID.
Or right before?
We bought it pre-COVID. Yeah, we had no idea what we were getting
event
into.
Space in January 2020.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, we had the whole idea of making an event space, but then the brokerage started growing. It was just kind of like, we're not event space people. We're real estate people, right? And so I started looking into it, and the more and more we got into it, we're like, you know what? I'm gonna be fighting my own clients to rent the event space out for the space.
Right.
And so, because I mean, we're in it weekly now. The company's grown enough to where we need the space for all of our meetings and everything like that. So it's been great.
No, I love the office. So I want to get into that. The team, the brokerage. I don't know. Let's start with the team.
Yeah.
You guys are going to do, what do you think you're going to do, team and brokerage this year?
So the team's goal is 839 units this year.
Bang.
Yep. We did 504 last year. I think we're on pace for that. Just hired a recruiter. So that's kind of a big move. Seems to be the hot topic this past year or so.
Growth and expansion.
Growth, and the brokerage is growing as well. And we'll definitely, I don't know, I'd say probably this year we'll probably land about maybe 1,200 units all in. So but we're with the brokerage, we're just teams only, so we don't have any solo agents or anything like that. And
so your Berkshire Hathaway brokerage is what I would call, in the new word that you're going to keep hearing more and more over the next 3 to 5 years, is a teamridge, right? It's like you've got your team inside the brokerage, and then you have other teams that I'm sure can take some of the plays that you're running and implement into their team. Or what kind of support are you giving?
Yeah,
these other teams?
That's why they're there. It's kind of cool. Because we had the team first. We've been, the team it got started in 2004. We only worked it for one brokerage the whole time until it was time to spread our wings and get our own space. So one of the benefits we have as starting as a team is every agent that has come to us, they're coming for the team model, even the other teams that have joined our brokerage. And because I have a bunch of buddies that own brokerages that have the more traditional model solo agents, they're like, I want to start a team, but how did you do that and not like piss off all your other agents? And I'm like, I didn't have to have that hurdle. You know, they all came to emulate the team, or not emulate, but like emulate pieces of it, but still have their own cultures. So it's been a lot of fun. Yeah. Service wise, we're more of a coaching company, I guess you could say. My role with the other teams is to coach them, work with leaders, work with their sales teams. Are
you doing coaching for Tom Ferry too right now?
Yeah.
So Doug's Tom Ferry Coach. You got a lot of experience coaching.
Yeah. So I had a 4-year run coaching, took about 2 years off, and then recently got the invite to come back with some of the new coaching programs they're doing. And I got excited about it, and I was like, time to keep growing.
How many coaching clients do you have?
Just got started last month. I've just picked up 3 teams.
Yeah.
Pretty notable teams, and then I'll pick up a few more. I don't want to take my focus away from the brokerage though.
Yeah. So you're coaching some teams through Tom Ferry. 3 teams, and then you're coaching the teams that are in your brokerage.
Correct.
And then you're coaching your team.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's fun.
Yeah. Yeah. 3 different hats basically you're wearing every day. But it's all the same.
But it's all the same. Yeah, it's all the same.
Do you have to like switch on and off, or you just like go all day?
No, I just go all day, right? I mean, what else do we do? It's just wake up, follow the calendar, live by the schedule, right?
Yeah. What's a Doug Edrington calendar look like?
Most mornings I'm in the office by 8:30, and just meeting. It's either I'm coaching a sales team, or I'm coaching an individual, or I'm working with the staff.
You guys face to face or Zoom?
In the brokerage face to face.
Yeah.
In the brokerage face to face. It's a little, it's a little bit more intimate setting when you can be face to face, classroom style or event room style or whatever it may be. Makes role playing a lot more fun. You build relationships a little bit better that way, and so I enjoy doing it that way. We have got mentors on our team, and when our mentors are working with our mentees, the new agents coming on board, even though they could be face to face, we actually like to do those trainings by Zoom, just because they're recorded and the mentee can go back and watch them.
How's that work? The mentor mentee?
It works really well. So we've been doing it for, I want to say easily 4 years now, maybe longer. No, it's longer because it was before we had the brokerage. But we have, I've got 2 really well qualified agents on our team that their job is to work with our new agents getting started.
For how long?
First 10 transactions.
Okay.
First 10 transactions.
Are they going on the deal with them, or just their? How does it work?
So they can. Yeah. The real goal is it's getting them up and running as quickly as possible. We look at, all these other real estate agents across the country, and what's the average stat for how many deals does a new agent do in their first year if they make it?
It's like 2 to 6.
2 to 6?
2 to 6, yeah.
2 to 6,
they say it's
right?
4 to 6. I think the 4 is bullshit, so I'm saying 2 to 6.
Yeah, you're probably right on that.
But the stat is 4 to 6, yeah.
Okay, and so
which is is bullshit.
Well, the thing is there's such a churn rate. It's hard to tell. Most people don't make it in their first year.
This stat will tell you everything. 75% of the deals are being done by about 25% of the agents.
Yeah, and it's crazy. You probably know the stats better than I do, but like if you look at what the top 5% or 10% does, it's like such a large amount of the volume. And I think teams have a lot to do with that too, right? And so, but the way the mentorship works though is when a new agent comes on board, we want to get them to get as much income in their pocket as quickly as possible. But more importantly, that's just to survive. Yeah. We want them to get as much education as possible. Yeah. And so first 30 days in the business is generally 30 days is no leads, no deals. It's just hardcore training. So our mentors meet with our mentees twice a week via Zoom. 45 minutes, very structured, start on time, end on time.
2 45-minute deals?
A week. Yep. All the way through their first 10 deals. The mentors really start more as a trainer first. And we follow a syllabus that we've created. I don't even say I created it, the mentors created it.
The mentors are getting paid off the mentees deals, their first 10 deals?
Yeah, they get half their paycheck.
Yeah.
And if you're hearing this and you're like, wow, that means the new agent doesn't get half of their paycheck.
Yeah. Well, Ryan Serhant believes new agents should work for free for a year. So there you go. I know a lot of agents are following Ryan.
Well, I mean,
that's what he believes.
Imagine the education level you're going to get on it, because everybody's going to pour into you because they're not worried about a deal. So there's a lot of value to that. But yeah, half the paycheck goes to the mentor. And when I first started the mentorship, we, just like anybody else getting started, it's like, oh, we'll give them 5% of the agent's deal. There's not enough skin in the game for the mentor to care.
Yeah.
I shouldn't say care. They do care because they're doing it because they actually love teaching, love helping, but we want to get compensated for what we love doing too, right?
That's right.
And so I didn't like the situation of a mentor having to pick between a really good paycheck with their own clients or their mentees for 5%. So when we changed the pay model up, all of a sudden it really started picking up quickly. So first 30 days, we follow the syllabus. It's contract training, certifications actually. It's contract certifications, script certification, buyer certification, tech certification, and then they've earned their lead flow.
So your agent, when they do 10 deals, they're like in year 3. It sounds like they're all these certifications. Meaning,
experience wise,
not actual year 3. Like the experience they've gained, they're like another agent somewhere else that's like in their 3rd year in the business.
Oh yeah. And they're not sheltered from the rest of the team training. So they come to all of our meetings, all of our team trainings. One of the most valuable pieces of the mentorship is the shadowing part. You know. And one of the things we learned is that one agent, a mentee, should not shadow just their mentor, because you're only going to learn
their skills
one way, right?
And wouldn't want to shadow me.
Well, I got to say, back in the day when I was
Bobby shadows me.
when I was working with all the new agents back in the day before the mentorship, they'd shadow me on 20, 30 listing presentations, and then we'd flip it. And they would be scared to death to talk because there's so much pressure. And then finally, when they do, they start telling my story. Right. And I was like, wait, no one likes to hear you talk about someone that they don't know and some random story and how you joined on. They want to hear your story. How did you get started? Yeah. And so it was a big eye opener for me. So we were like, you know what? They need to shadow everybody. And then we need to focus on them developing their own story.
Plus, you and I are in mastermind with Jill Biggs, right?
Yeah. Oh, could you imagine?
Imagine like shadowing her. Like, she's so charismatic. She knows everybody in that market. She's like, I sold this one, I sold that one. You literally would learn nothing by shadowing her. You'd pick up some stuff, obviously. Oh, yeah. You'd pick up some stuff, but it's not practical for a new agent to just shadow a listing agent at that level. Jill Biggs is doing on her own close to $200 million in listings per year. Obviously, the price point in Hoboken is high and all of that. But she's getting listings just because she knows so many different people. Like, I sold there. And when you name drop like that, that's how I used to get listings. Like, knowing people, relationship, name drop. That's not a transferable skill, name dropping.
Yeah. I talked to Jill this morning, actually.
We got somebody knocking on the just open the door, Bobby.
Housekeeping.
This is insane.
We're good. Thank you.
We're good.
We're all good. Yeah, we're all good. I thought we had the do not disturb up, but we're here in Charleston for the Boomtown Reunite.
Fabulous Dewberry.
Is it Reunite?
Just Unite.
Just Unite.
We're reuniting, but it's just Unite.
It's not Reunite. It's Unite. Boomtown at the Dewberry, and so we had the hotel service.
But I was talking to Jill this morning, and she's in this transformation right now where she's really like shifting a lot of efforts away from her to the team. You know, she's replacing herself, which is amazing. And we were talking about training listing presentation. And she, Jill, she's just like, I don't know what the F to do, and I just know
She's
people.
hilarious.
I just go and I tell them what to do, and they just listen to me. And then how do I transfer that? And I'm like, you don't transfer that.
No,
because
you
you just
And that's where shadowing gets tricky. To your point, is you should shadow multiple skilled advisors, professionals.
Yeah, that's part of our training. Is they have a minimum number of buyer presentations they have to go on, minimum number of listing presentations they have to go on. And one of the trends, I guess it's not a trend, it's just kind of eye opening to me. I'm just kind of getting back into being a coach again. I'm like rediscovering new teams, right? Mm-hmm. And they're not new, but they're new to me from the process. And I'm just blown away about how many teams still have buyer's agents versus seller's agents. And because an agent's an agent, like they need to be able to do both. And when those buyer's agents are just buyer's agents, they have their blinders on. They walk right past listing opportunities all the time. Yeah. And so I think a real big conversation that should be happening is that these agents that are new, they need to be trained, not to be the expert listing agent, but they need to be well-versed enough that they can get the appointment, add enough value to get to the appointment, and then bring on someone with them to say, hey, I need the expert to come along until they have that confidence and experience to make it happen.
Yeah, 100%. I'm a big believer. What I call the Outliers mentality. If you read the book Outliers, Malcolm Gladwell, he talks about putting 10,000 hours into a compressed amount of time to become an expert in whatever field you're, working on, whether it's a sport or, in this instance, business, real estate sales. And that's what you're doing with your mentor-mentee program. You're compressing this knowledge into a shorter period of time.
Sound familiar, Jesse? We were literally just talking about this about an hour ago.
Talking about Outliers, yeah?
Oh, well, no, we were just
talking about the 10,000 hours.
10,000 hours,
Jesse's been with us for like 2 years now.
Yeah.
And we were talking, he was asking me like, how's the new coaching gig going and everything. And I was like, man, it's such a kind of a reignition for me of just like it's bringing, it's like, I'm having flashbacks like, man, maybe I've slipped a little bit with my own team. Cause now I'm pouring the foundational skills and I'm like, maybe we've slipped a little bit. So we need to get back to the foundation. And Jesse was mentioning about like, you're not an expert until you get 10,000 hours of something of practice.
Did you pick that up from that book or somewhere else?
I was listening to a podcast on the way here.
Podcast? Which was
Ed Milet.
Ed Milet, yeah. So I mean, and he probably got it from. I know the Ed Milet podcast.
Yeah.
Actually, Ed Milet, by the way, great podcast. The what is it? Max Out podcast. Max Out podcast. I own the domain. Maxed Out podcast. So if you want that, Ed, hit me up. I'll sell it to you. Yeah, I have that.
Are you one of those website collectors?
Yeah. I got a whole bunch of domains. God. I got that though before I knew that Ed Milet had that.
So okay, a little off topic here. Do you buy the 1 year or do you buy the 4 year or like what do you do?
I get the 1 year, but they're all on automatic renewals.
So your email is just constantly like automatic renewals in your inbox all the time. Like I see that and I'm just like, why did I buy that website?
Yeah,
what do I have that for? I can't imagine what you go through.
Tons of them. Yeah. And some of them we don't use. And then some of them, like I have my kids' domain names. I have my daughter's first and current, my last name, but she may change her last name. So then I have her first name and middle name. I have both of my daughter's first and middle name.com and with my first name and my last name, but that'll probably be of no use to them. I'm thinking the first and middle name is going to be. I have two daughters. I have 4 domains for the future. If .coms are worth anything.
I was gonna say, like, is that gonna be like, hey, babies, I got your cassette tapes here for you in case you ever want them.
But I got them, and it'll be maybe we start using it before they, while they're in school. Maybe there's a use for it there, or maybe they're, little mini entrepreneurs, and we can make some money off.
I'm
of
sure
that
you'll
deal.
Find a return.
I'll be a 90% partner with them. I'll never deal that. I give them 10%. It'll be, but I'll be.
Oh, that's why you have kids.
I'll be putting up 100% of the cash though, Doug. So you got a kid coming, right?
We're working on it. Yeah, wife and I are going through an adoption process.
You want to talk about that?
It's kind of crazy. I'm probably not getting too much in the weeds on it, but
hard process. But
though, right? it's a process, man. It's a process. Yeah, we got them full-time fostering coming up here in about a month. So
you foster first, then you get.
It's like a visiting family thing first, and then so we get them like a couple weekends out of the month, and then it shifts to fostering.
So they're at a foster home during the other time.
Yeah, he's at Children's Home.
The weekend.
Yeah, been there.
So it's kind of like
most of his life.
Is it a two-way street? Like, does the kid want to also be adopted? Is that part of the equation?
He's about to turn 12. I don't think he knows what he wants. I think he's been through multiple families, multiple turnover in the children's home, like just not accustomed to consistency. So we're hoping to be the help him start to learn relationships more than anything, right? Just because that's not the world that the group home setting is necessarily trained for. They're more trained for a system than they are the relationship. So we'll see how it goes. It's interesting. I tell you, it's
a cool thing, man.
I tell you what's really interesting is the training that you've got to go through to become a foster parent.
Are you picking up some business skills?
Yeah. It's crazy. It's just like, because it's all about human behavior, and you start to think about like, it's like 80% of the people in the United States have some sort of like childhood traumatic.
Who's the training
experience.
Come from? Like a government official? Or?
It's state driven, and then private
they bring in
companies can teach it, or you can go directly through the state.
Okay.
We started it through the state through Zoom, because of COVID, it's Zoom now. And after sitting through the first one, I was just like, no, we're swapping over to a private so we can see face to face. And it was totally worth it because like, I mean, 80% of the country has been through some sort of childhood trauma. And when you start to like,
especially the
literally,
last 2 years.
yeah,
during COVID.
right. I mean, could you imagine? Just
like
there's so much different things. And you throw social media into it. Some of these kids that have the FOMO of not seeing their friends, and then they're not, it's a lot easier to get bullied on online and stuff like that. So there's just all sorts of crazy stuff. But when you think about what it's done for me is like when they spell out the different types of childhood trauma, they talk about the most common symptoms that come from those things and how they most of them can all be repaired with a lot of therapy and training, but for the actual individual, but most people don't get that therapy and training. And so like as I'm going through all this, I'm thinking about, you know, my family and our team and all of our ancillary services and all the people involved in it. And I'm like, man, it makes sense why we have so much trouble communicating with each other. And then most recently, I just read this book called Surrounded by Idiots. Have you read it?
No.
Oh, it's a great book. It's called Surrounded by Idiots.
Write that down for me.
I'll
re-listen.
No, it's a great.
I've been torturing Bobby all freaking day. That's why I did that.
It's a great book, and you know the concept of the book is if you think you're surrounded by idiots, you're the idiot.
Yeah.
Because we have so many different personality
you're
types.
choosing who to surround yourself with.
Well, no, you come from so many different backgrounds, and if you can just become a professional communicator. And this isn't the first concept I've had of this, and so I've told myself this for a very long time, but. You know, if I'm trying to communicate with an individual that I probably wouldn't go out and grab a drink with, I probably wouldn't invite over to my house, they're going to be very different than me, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of the world just gets frustrated when they're trying to communicate with somebody very different from them. But if you can just tell yourself, and I feel like I do this subconsciously now, every single person you meet, client, agent, friend, neighbor, doesn't matter. If you can just remind yourself, if this is true, hey, I've been trained on communication in multiple different ways, and know that they haven't, you just bring your expectations down so low that you don't get pissed off when you communicate with them.
Wow.
Because it's just like, you know, if you expect something, like everybody goes into a conversation expecting them to understand you.
Yeah.
Like that's probably the first step. Like if I tell them
expect
something,
people have common sense.
Yeah, exactly, right? But your common sense may be different than my common sense. There's
It's
no
clearly
common sense.
Not necessarily you, but it's clearly different than others.
Right, you know?
And I probably am the screwed up one.
Well, I mean, it really comes down to, can you assess, like there's certain different types of personality types.
Yeah.
People have been through different types of trauma. People have different challenges, and then they have all these symptoms from it, right?
Yeah.
And so when you're communicating with somebody and they're not getting you, or they're fighting you, you know, like verbally fighting you, or they're defensive, like instead of like trying to just the number one go-to for most people is I'll just say it again louder. You know, maybe they'll hear me more if I just if I get more vocal with them.
Is that my move?
No. You don't understand. I need to talk with my hands now.
That's my move. There you go.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah. But you know, if you just set your expectations really low and just remind yourself, hey, I've been trained on communication. This person hasn't. So let's give them the benefit of the doubt, and I might have to get on their level to communicate. Yeah. That's what that whole book, that's part of what that book's about. It's a really interesting book.
I like that.
Yeah.
Good.
Or listen.
I like it when we do a book drop on the pod.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, people can get some value out of that for sure.
Good. That's good.
We already dropped 2 books, Outliers and
Surrounded by Idiots.
Surrounded by Idiots. You want to check that out. Who wrote it?
Good
Do you know?
ones.
No, that's all right.
No, I don't remember off the top of my head.
It's all good. You mentioned Zoom with this whole thing during COVID. How was Tennessee, your Chattanooga, Tennessee? How was Tennessee during the pandemic?
So I think I almost said we're just like everybody else, but I didn't live up north where you live.
Yeah.
I know it's a lot crazier up there.
I moved to South Florida out there in the beginning.
Oh, that's right.
Once I saw some of the moves.
I'd say Tennessee is more like Florida than it is like up northeast.
Okay.
A little bit more laid back, but we still had the shutdown. You know, we got a Democratic mayor in Chattanooga, and so he took it very seriously. And you know, when COVID broke, March of 2020, we were in Nashville at the Berkshire Hathaway conference. When I say it broke, when it broke in Tennessee, they shut the conference down a day early. Like
March you're talking about, or April?
Yeah, it was in March.
Yeah.
It was in March. They shut the conference down a day early.
That was in Nashville? Okay.
It just happened to be in Nashville. It's usually, anywhere in the country, big cities. It just happened to be in Nashville. So 2.5 hour drive. It was easy. And they shut it down the day early. And the rumor mill is that one of the vendors in the vendor hall said they had symptoms of COVID, and they shut down this, 5,000 person event. And then we were like, all right, we'll go home a day early. It was easy for us. And next thing you know, like we're getting calls from our local association and the other competitors, and we're hearing chatter of like, all the Berkshire agents were exposed.
Everybody,
don't let
all
them in your
5,000 people
house.
had it.
and it made it worse from a PR perspective in that brief moment, because I thought I was doing the responsible thing of shutting our office down for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
But Zoom
they're
wasn't
like,
new
he
to
shut down
us.
because everybody has it.
Yeah, Zoom wasn't new to us, so I was just like, you know what? Why take any risk? We have no idea what we're walking into.
Yeah, nobody knew at
like,
that point.
Like we'll just double down on Zoom and we'll continue to do our thing. People then we started realizing we're masking and gloving and bootying and all the different things we got to do, and so we kind of got some crazy pushback in the real estate space, and but coaching for Tom Ferry had prepared me for this time.
Yeah.
I had some
Coaching
clients
with or for? You're saying
coaching for.
Okay.
Because I had about 20 teams I was coaching with for that 4-year run up until September of 20 is when I took a break from it.
Mm-hmm.
And all for good reasons, ended obviously on really good terms, and still a client of Tom's, but at the time, but
we were just in Napa with Tom, like you're
you're
good friends with Tom.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. But I had clients in Texas and Houston that had getting wiped out by hurricanes. The one that was most impactful, and she knows exactly who I'm talking about if she listens to this, is I don't even mind saying her name, Brandy Laffins, and you know Brandy?
No,
you don't know.
I don't know Brandy.
She's
Brandy, come on the pod.
She's in the team world. She's an awesome person.
Yeah.
But like her town, about a year before that, she works the Chico and Paradise Market in California.
Okay.
Like 90% of the homes in her
Chico
town
and Paradise. What
caught
names?
on fire.
Wow.
It was, the California fires.
Yeah.
I was her coach. I had to be a rock. Like I had to be the person looking in from the outside. And I remember my first questions was just like, well, what markets can your team drive to that didn't burn down?
Right. Wow, that's crazy.
And she grew her team like, gosh, 4 or 5x, like from a personnel count. Yeah, like throughout that year.
She expanded to other markets?
She became they stretched a little bit, but they leaned into building relationships with the insurance companies.
I thought you were going to say building homes.
No, not building homes, but building relationships with the insurance companies.
Of
course. It's a small town. Like they average maybe 60 listings at a time.
Yeah.
And so you can influence a small town much easier than you could a real large city, right?
You can be the white glove service with the insurance company to make it easier on people.
Absolutely. But I mean, they had like Tent City and Walmart, like of very wealthy people, like not just people that couldn't afford to find a solution.
Yeah. So nowhere
there
to go.
were no solutions. There were no rental cars. There were no hotels. They were burnt down. And so to help her through that situation, it gives me chills thinking about it. She had so much more going on in her life at the time too. That was crazy. She had just become the association president. Like all this stuff happening. And so when COVID hit, I was like, this is actually easy compared to that time. Yeah. We don't know what's ahead of us, but like we still have product to sell. We're still alive, and we'll
see whatever's coming.
Yeah. So I mean, we all have kind of said stuff like this, but I truly believe I was built for that time. It was awesome. We went to 5 days a week on Zoom, and wasn't it cool though? Like to be like, I'm sure you and I probably even did at some point in time, like, hey, you guys want to do happy hour on Zoom? Like we were having little parties,
That's right.
My wife's birthday is on March 31st. Like we had a birthday party of friends all over the country, and it was just hanging out in the kitchen.
Hanging out on Zoom.
So,
I mean, we were on Zoom for a few years before.
Yeah.
So it was
But
easy.
you know what? All the disruption though, even like COVID, that's where like great things happen.
Yeah.
And I think great things happen for us. Oh, and then, the real estate business turned out to be pretty good due to COVID.
Yeah. Did more people than ever before all of a sudden want to move to Chattanooga, Tennessee? Because Tennessee's got no state income tax. There's a lot of stuff going for it. Like you said, there was maybe
it's extremely affordable,
easier for people to live
a lot
with
of
it.
jobs. I mean,
was it even more popular, or was it just steady growth like before?
It's been steady growth. I mean, when I got in the business, my parents got in 2004, I got in 2005. And then apparently there was a recession between like 8 and 11. I say it like that because I'd watch it on the news of like, hey,
you didn't feel it in Tennessee?
I didn't know it until we were out of it, until we looked in the mirror. I just kept saying, hey, we're in a valley. Like we joke about this. We're like, Chattanooga is like literally a valley kind of surrounded by mountains. And we're like,
Right.
we've got this insulator here. We're good. Housing prices have never really spiked. We've never had any bubbles. And so
there's nowhere else for them to go down. They're already low in Chattanooga.
That was the first few years of our business. Now that I can reflect back on it, what I realized is the higher price points took some hits.
Yeah.
We just weren't working the higher price points.
I got you.
You know, we were new agents. We were getting started. And so for the average Joe, like we kind of flattened out a little bit, but our prices didn't drop. And we started back then.
No, right now in Chattanooga.
I think the average about 300. Our teams is pushing 340, and
but the market's 300.
Market's about 300.
So that's under the national average of 350. So there's still great opportunity in Chattanooga.
Well, the like California is moving to Tennessee. If you haven't heard, like every day it's a call. You know, I'm really starting. I've got a couple teams that I coach that are in second markets, like beach towns and stuff like that. I now understand what they go through because you got the California, it's not just California, but a huge group of people are moving or investing from California into Tennessee. And so, but now we're having to train our agents differently to like set up Zoom presentations, do the FaceTime showings.
People in other states.
Because you can't just say, hey, I'll meet you down the road in 30 minutes and open up a door and build a relationship. And so it's almost like, it almost feels like a second home community on some level because so many people are coming from California.
You guys have a lot of the investors right now because that price point of 300 makes it seem like you'd have a ton of investors.
Ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. I used to keep this kind of quiet. But well, no, not so much. Not so much. But I used to keep this quiet, but I've heard him say it enough publicly that I'm going to start saying it now because it's a good little plug for me. But you know Gino Blafari?
Yeah, I want to talk about Gino.
All right, so Gino's bought maybe close to 20 properties from me in Chattanooga, rental properties.
Gino, CEO of Berkshire Hathaway Home Services.
Yeah, and I met him from a ribbon cutting when Prudential became Berkshire. He made a commitment he was going to open up every office with be a part of the grand opening, come rally the agents, come educate us, and then hang out for the party and cut the ribbon. And so
he's buying a
when
property
he came
through you?
out. Yeah. And I mean, not just in my market. I'm sure he's probably buying all over the place, but
probably doing like 10 markets.
But he called me and he was just like, he called me one day and I didn't really know him. Like he showed up and it was when we were at our last company and I had no idea who it was. He called me. He's like, hey, partner. He calls everybody partner. Hey, partner, it's Gino. How you doing? And I was like, Gino, how do I know that name? That sounds so familiar. Next thing I know, I realized, I'm talking to the CEO of Berkshire Hathaway at the time. Now he's CEO of Home Services of America.
The whole thing's 90,000 agents under him. If you don't know Gino Blafari, look him up. He's an animal.
He's a brilliant guy, and his right hand Dieter, his assistant, like she's amazing. And so I've built a really good relationship with them. But yeah, he called me up and he's like, hey, I want to buy in Tennessee, and I was like, what do you want to buy? I was getting a little nervous, like, because at the time we really didn't do any commercial. We're just kind of dabbling in that now, but I was like, I'm just thinking, big dog CEO, he's gonna want to buy something big, and I'm like, am I actually gonna be able to serve him at the highest level?
Yeah.
And I'm like, what do you want to buy? He's like, I'm in residential real estate. Let's go buy some houses. And I was like, thank God. And so
you managing those, or you got a manager?
We got a property manager. Yeah, that manages my properties.
So you was called, or is he calling the property manager?
Well, he ain't talking to anybody. His assistant will communicate via email, and anytime there's an issue, they just loop me in and say, hey, does this make sense or does it not? So which I'm more than happy to do.
Man, Gino, he's a real amazing CEO in this industry, and he's worked out his way up all the way from the agent level into this position.
Did you hear his story?
Yeah.
Yeah, he was like...
You tell the story, you know it better than I do.
Well, I don't know it super well, but I mean, he was groundskeeper of a golf course sold, turned into a subdivision. I think he might have been working with the construction a little bit.
Construction sales.
Got hooked up with the sales team. He worked from the ground up. What a great story, though.
Obviously he built a brokerage and sold that. Antero. Right?
Yeah, Antero sold it. Well,
in California.
I mean, I guess he sold it. Yeah, he sold it to Mr. Buffett. You know, Warren Buffett, Berkshire Hathaway. Yeah. But the way he told me the story was just like, he got the call one day and they said they wanted him to be CEO of Berkshire Hathaway, the new residential space that they haven't touched yet, Berkshire Hathaway Home Services. And he's like, man, I'm honored, but I already own a real estate company. And like, well, we want to buy that.
Yeah, we're going to take that, Gino. Don't worry about that. We're give you a check.
I think he got a pretty big check for that.
Yeah, he got a big check from what I understand. Hey, he's buying all these homes. Of course he did. But he's running the whole thing. And what's most impressive about Gino, we spent some time with him. You spent more time with him than I have, but I got to spend a little bit of time with him when we were in Napa together. And he was at the table, and to see him asking questions of just regular team leaders,
Yeah.
and, people that have 50 agents or 100 agents or whatever, he's asking serious questions, and he's taking pages of notes. Pages and pages of notes. So
he takes it very seriously.
A guy who's a multi-millionaire, who is the CEO of Berkshire Hathaway Home Services, 90,000 plus agents. What was Berkshire Hathaway the most transactions? There was some stat he was pumping out. He had some stat. I mean,
it was transactions. It was
transactions.
Yeah, I think Compass was by volume.
Yeah,
Berkshire Home Services
by
transactions.
That's all the companies.
Yeah,
which he's overseeing it all. It's a massive company. It's one of the obvious big dogs in residential real estate. And to see a guy like that, always learning, staying curious, pages of notes, it's so impressive. We can all I'm like, man, I'm not taking enough notes.
I mean, he's sitting at the table behind me next to you, at your table.
Yeah.
Of a room of what, maybe 25 of us or so?
Yeah, it was about 25, 30
yeah,
maybe.
and it was a true mastermind. Like everybody got to input. It wasn't just he showed up for his keynote and walked out. It was a real good deal.
And I mean, he when we kind of stopped, we'd stop and we'd chat about whatever we were talking about, like group session wise. I mean, he's adding value, but like I said, like really being interested in what you're doing at the ground level. And I'm sure there's a lot of different reasons why he wants that information, but it was very authentic. And it's why he's at the level he's at, because he's taking information from everywhere in the industry and putting it to work. He's not taking those notes and ignoring them. He literally had the most impressive thing about Gino Blafari is he had his 20-year life plan with him in his notebook, and he carries it around everywhere. At all times, he has his 20-year life plan written out in paper, always editing it.
Yeah.
And he's carrying that thing around. That's crazy impressive.
I think what's most impressive, and you've seen this too before, where he gets on stage and he will recite anything. Like he has Og Mandino is a big he's a big fan of Og Mandino, and he'll recite out these quotes that are pages long, and he lives by them. Like I can't imagine what his poor wife has to listen to when he's probably getting ready in the morning. He's just reciting things over and over and over again. He's got these questions. I need to memorize them, but he's got have you heard it? I don't know if it's 20 or 40 or 50 questions on how to get to know someone. And he spends
I've used some of those questions.
Yeah. I have too. I got to go to the list, but I should memorize them, but
he hasn't memorized, which is crazy.
He just rattle them off. And so, but what's really this is bragging for both you and I, but really an honor for you and I is that he has a coach, and it's Tom.
Our coach.
It's our coach.
Yeah.
There's been times before he's like, I'm talking to Tom, and Tom will run over a little bit every now and then, and he's like, all right, Doug, I got to go. Gino's up next. And I'm like, that's wild.
That's wild,
That
right?
is wild.
Think about that.
Yeah, but it's not just a cool thing to think about. It's like, I got to step up.
Right.
Because we got to earn to keep that coach.
That's
right. And some high standards that Tom's coaching. So
yeah, it's a big shout out to Gino, and mad props to him. You obviously own a Berkshire Hathaway Home Service brokerage, which Gino franchise, which Gino would love that. But keeping it real, are you happy you bought a franchise? Would you? Was that the right decision buying a franchise? When did you buy it?
So, 4 years ago, it was 2018, March, April of 18. I think.
So is that a good move, bad move? Buying a, I mean, I don't want to put it like that. Good move, bad move, but are you happy with the decision?
So I think it depends. Right? You said keeping it real. The brand name is great, right? But before I can knock anybody out there, including Berkshire, I think we all got to first look in the mirror and say, are we leveraging it to the fullest, right?
Yeah, of course.
And I think one of the challenges that I've faced, and I call this my challenge, and I guess it makes it Berkshire's challenge too.
Could be other franchise
challenge. is for a teamerage, as you called it, the team brokerage.
Yeah.
Most brokerages aren't set up to support teams.
Yeah.
And so we've got to figure out 100%. How to manipulate systems, change things up.
Yeah.
I mean, from the awards that they do down to the CRM, it's not as team centric, right?
That's
They're
right.
there, it's set up for it, but it's not there. And so one of the challenges that I face is I get so caught up in the brokerage world that I don't take in all these other ecosystems. We're here at Boomtown right now, all these other ecosystems that I've been in for years. Now I'm in this whole other new ecosystem of owners and brokers across the country with Berkshire. And that's the next one I really need to lean into to take advantage of to get the fullest out of it. Yeah. And so I'd say for anybody that's thinking about like starting up their own brokerage, it's going to come down to, you need to get clear with your goal. The thing that I messed up on, if I go back and reflect, I made somewhat of an impulse and emotional decision, right? I didn't want my clients to think I was changing brands. And because I left a Berkshire and started a Berkshire, right? So I was like, the last company I was at, when I started with them, they were GMAC, then they became Prudential, then they became Berkshire. Mm-hmm. And I was like, do we really need a fourth brand change to the consumer?
Sure.
So that was a part of it. And then also I was under a lot of pressure from a time standpoint. Rumor got out in my brokerage that we were thinking about leaving, that we had bought a building. We hadn't even closed on it yet. Broker comes to me one day and says, hey, I hear you bought a building. You got 2 weeks to get out. And
I at least gave you 2 weeks. Yeah. That was very nice of them, by the way.
Yeah. Well, I had to fight for the 2 weeks, and so I think it's a complicated question that is very specific to the person, but the biggest mistake I made in it is I didn't align it with like a 20-year goal, like stuff that we've been talking about the past year or so now. And so do I regret it? Absolutely not. There's been a lot of great benefit from it. And there's so much more that we can lean into. Like they have a huge relocation business.
What's the term? What's the term on something like that?
The term, it depends. It depends. We did a 10-year. We did a 10-year. I'd say that's probably common.
Maybe that's probably the lowest.
No. I've heard people doing less. I've heard people doing more. So there's a level of negotiation in the beginning, and I would say that I was not the expert at the time on that. Not saying I didn't get taken advantage of everything. I just didn't know what I didn't know. Yeah, right. So we did a good deal.
Yeah.
But yeah, we got another 6 years before we're up for renewal, and but who knows what 6 years looks like from now. I'm hoping where we get to the point where not saying I want to sell, but I want to be bought, right? Yep. And Gino's been buying up. Gino or Home Services of America has been buying up a lot of the franchises.
Because you're a franchise, and so Gino, to make sure that you're part of the like a Coldwell or any of these brokerages, they have franchises, and then they have company
like Coldwell's got NRT,
offices,
right?
Yeah.
NRT owns the corporate, and then there's the franchises. Berkshire has become more the same way. They were really franchise heavy. They still are franchise heavy, but I probably shouldn't quote it if I don't know. I want to say 40-something owned companies. Maybe it could be a lot more than that. So don't quote me on that.
They may come to you at your renewal or before or whenever.
It has everything. It has everything to do with GCI.
Yeah.
So we're in Chattanooga, Tennessee. We're in much smaller markets. So we do a lot of units to catch up with some of the big dogs. So,
but they may say to you, "Hey, we want to be a company-owned office. Maybe have you expand to Knoxville or whatever," which I think you're doing anyway. I don't know if I should say that, but I think you might be doing that.
It's coming around. We did expansion once, and it worked out really well. And when we opened up the franchise, it got a little complicated because we had a team in another Berkshire franchise property. It got sticky. My lessons learned from the expansion is you do not expand unless you have a leader going there.
Operator, leader, yeah.
There's got to be a leader there. We were really successful. We did it in Nashville. We were really successful in Nashville for a year. And then we were just an expansion team. I didn't own the brokerage at the time. And then when I opened the brokerage, it got a little sticky. And so, but it was great timing. It was great for me to have that experience in another town. We actually rented an apartment and real close to the office at downtown on 8th Avenue in Nashville. And we'd rotate our mentors and our sales manager and myself. And we almost had someone up there almost 7 days a week. But the real challenge that we faced was we had all these new agents that we just hired in Nashville, and were more of the culture of the brokerage than they were our team, because we didn't have a large team. It was like 5 of us up there, 5 agents. And all of our support staff was in Chattanooga, because it's the way the world works now. You don't have to physically be there.
Disconnect.
There was disconnect. We were actually putting more leadership and more training and more effort into Nashville operation than we were in Chattanooga, but the agents felt as if they weren't getting what the Chattanooga team was getting. And so, but perception's reality, right? And so reflecting on it all, I'm just waiting for one of our great team members in Chattanooga to say that we are moving to some fun city across the town. Looking at one of my team members over here.
Yeah.
That are, but are open to moving. It really doesn't matter where in the country. That's what I've learned. It's not about location. It's about the people. So, I mean, dude, you moved to Florida, and I'm sure you think about it all the time of like, how many teams should I open here? I know you got some other ventures going on, though.
Yeah, we got some other stuff going on.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Dude, I'm really impressed with everything, man. I think Gino will make you an offer someday, too.
Yeah,
and if Gino's still running it, you'll probably take it, because Gino's the man.
I asked Gino when we first opened, and, I mean, we were infancy back then. Like, we were doing, like, not even $2 million in GCI. And I was like, what do we got to do to be like, what's the bar to where corporate would want to buy us? And back then, I think it was a great question
for the person that could buy you.
Yeah. And I think back then it was around 13 million GCI. And I was like, oh man, that's going to be so hard to get to. And last year we did just shy of 8. Yeah. And I'm like, but the bar's risen though. You know?
Now it's 15.
So who knows what it's at now? I don't know.
20 or whatever.
But you know, we got some big focuses. We're really trying to expand the team really big. Like I said, we hired a recruiter not too long ago. We got a goal of 100 agents on the team by the end of the year. And I think it's very possible if we've got the right people in place. We've got a lot of new people in place. So time will tell there, but it's exciting to grow it. And then getting back in the coaching world is really kind of refreshing in a lot of ways. And so, I'm excited, and then be able to hang out with you and our mastermind group and the new ecosystem and the coaching world. Like, I mean, it's pretty exciting. So
I appreciate you, man. You've done a lot for me. And if you're somebody who's, thinking about, maybe you got a team or whatever, if you can get on Doug's schedule, he's doing the Tom Ferry coaching now. So I don't know how many more of those you're trying to take. But
yeah, we'll see. We'll see. Yeah. You can always hit me up. If not me, I can get you in touch with the right person.
That's right. Yeah. That's right. No, Doug's, I mean, you're a great leader, man.
I appreciate it.
You got a great composure on how you lead, and so I've always appreciated.
Just trying to be like you, man.
No, not like me. Come on.
Just trying to be like you.
I appreciate you doing this.
Hey, man. Thanks a bunch. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Thanks for coming on.
Cool.